What happened to New York? The nursery has gone out of control. It is suddenly a jungle.
Yeah, so the game basically takes place 20 years after Crysis 2, and Cell Industries, which is one of the organizations who fight in Crysis 2 and in Crysis 1, they've gained a lot of power, and they've built these massive nanodomes over a lot of cities. And these domes basically accelerate plant growth, which cleans the cities from within from any leftover Ceph pollution, the alien race Ceph. What they're really doing is making sure no one disturbs them while they're researching all this Ceph technology, which they're really interested in, because ultimately they want to have global domination, and they believe that this technology is...
That old global domination thing again. Why do they always want that?
It's money, baby.
So now inside these domes, there's not a civilian population?
No, there isn't. There are people that you help in there. There is a group of kind of like rebels, if you will. But part of making sure that people understand how evil a corporation Cell is, everybody has been thrown out of the cities, peacefully have been forcefully rejected from their homes. So it's pretty clear that these are the bad guys, along with the Ceph race, obviously.
Right. Now, what are we looking at right here? I saw a little stealth mode action there, and seeing some bow action, and now it looks like something that's going to put bullets through people.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we're pushing very hard in the game is that Prophet, which is the character you play, is the hunter within this urban rainforest setting. And part of that, he's been given this bow, which you saw a little before, which not only is a very cool kind of low-tech meets high-tech weapon, it's also a very customizable weapon. There's a number of different arrowheads, and one of them you can fire while you're cloaked, which really adds a lot of value to the sense of being stealthy and a hunter, which is kind of an ongoing theme in the game.
Sure.
You can also equip it with a number of other warheads, like you can electrocute enemies if they're in water, and there is like sticky grenades and proximity grenades, and a host of other things we'll reveal as we go on.
So now, the series really is known for its graphics and the fact that it melts graphics cards.
It makes computers weep.
It really does. However, you get so much visual fidelity for that. So what's your sort of theory on that this time?
Well, I mean, we definitely want to push the high end. PC is definitely a driving platform for a lot of the visual goodies we want to put in. I can't really go into detail about what exactly is going to be there, but we obviously want to make sure that everything looks good regardless of platform, but we also want to re-establish Crytek and Crysis as kind of like the benchmark setter for visual fidelity on the high-end hardware, right? So, and also the environment that you play in this whole setting of a completely overgrown city. It's a great environment for both huge scale, but also a lot of attention to kind of micro detail, which, so we basically have the whole spectrum there, right? And also we want to push the more sandboxy gameplay elements that people might remember from Crysis 1, but also keep a lot of the verticalities and the more funneled experiences whenever that makes sense that people might remember from Crysis 2. So it's kind of like taking whatever experience and knowledge we had from those two first games, building on that, and then make something even better from that.
So, to the sandbox gameplay aspect, this mission that we're watching here, I'm sure there's an objective, right? There's a goal that we're trying to complete as the gamer, but how many different ways are there to tackle that within any given level or mission?
I mean, there are basically, there is in theory infinite, but I mean, if you take this particular little area it's not that little, but this area that CJ is running around in now, there are kind of three main paths, and each of these paths then branch in multiple connectivity paths and also multiple verticality paths. Sure. So that you can choose to approach it either stealthily or guns blazing or a combination of that. You could go in stealth. If that gets disrupted, you can go into hiding and move away and circumvent them and flank them, go into stealth again. So it's like a really great playground, and especially if you use the bow, which is something we've noticed that a lot of people who play the game, they really use the bow, and that's very cool because that was really what we were hoping for. Again, because we want to push this sense of you being the hunter.
Right. Yeah, hunting with an AK is a little bit easier, though. But the bow looks way
not
cool.
quite as cool.
Yeah, the bow is way cooler.
You give yourself away a little bit, though, when that thing goes off. Okay, are we going to actually recognize any locations in New York?
Yeah, you'll see landmarks. And, I mean, the one thing we really want to build into is that you shouldn't think about that you're in New York all the time when you play the game, but there needs to be these moments where you go like, holy, is that really? And, so... We've not just planted a lot of trees inside New York City. We've really completely defined like the concept of a rainforest with the geometry that you see in a city, like houses and collapsed houses and so on. And here you can see like the big skyscrapers. They basically act as mountains, which means that the concept of the wonder that we call all these is called canyon here, because you always feel like you're in a canyon between mountains. And there's going to be like mountain top areas, grasslands, and all kinds of different things. When we announced the game, the The wonder that we showed there was the one we call Swamp, which is a much more eerie and dark and a little more claustrophobic, not as open-ended as this. This is probably a good kind of middle ground for what the game is going to be in terms of scale. And then there's going to be bigger areas, and there are going to be more confined areas.
Well, Rasmus, I recently built a new gaming rig specifically to play this game. Did I do it too early? When do we get to play the new game?
No, I don't think so. The game launches in 9 months from now, so it's not that long into the future, but obviously it's still pre-alpha code, so it's not a finished game.
I can't... This is the best pre-alpha I've seen in a long time.
February 2013 is
awesome. Rasmus, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming by.
I appreciate it.